Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, Becoming Your Own VIP, Mind, Body, and Soul. I'm your host, Rebecca McCants. So let's get to it. Today's topic, I wanted to talk to you about sins of the father. Now, this is where we're going to get into a little bit of soul today. We all know sins of the father from the Bible verses, but never have I recognized how it impacted me and the world in real life. You know, to me, it was always a story. I was never really fully religious. Did I follow? Did I do my best to go to church and study the Bible? Yeah, I dibbled and dabbled. I went to learn about a lot of different religions here or there throughout my life. Nothing really stuck until things in my life where I really needed some guidance. And when that guidance came, it was a blessing because it led to the healing that I've been seeking. Because at one point I really was broken and lost. And it created a journey that I didn't know I was ever going to be on. But a lot of it was a journey of healing and releasing a lot of the fears, worries, and doubts, as well as reparenting myself in a way that aided me to heal and to renew my life. So with this healing journey, that's where I recognize the importance of the Bible and the scriptures and how relevant it is in my life and our lives today. And one of the revelations that I had about that is, honestly, I kept searching for myself. I always was questioning, well, who am I? A lot of the things I've done in life was to fit in with others, to please others, to find love, to question why love wasn't working, why I behaved and acted in certain ways, which obviously I blamed on my parents, my childhood, but really still having no answers. And when I got on this journey, I realized it wasn't anyone to blame. Not them, not my parents, not my childhood, not me, not anyone. No one was to blame. Because if you don't know something, that means you're doing the best you can. And that's where I found revelation in the sins of our father. And right now, I'm just going to give you a question. I really want you to think on this, okay? So, where did your story truly begin? Can you really think about that? Did you really create the story that you're living right now? When did your story begin? And really, was it your story? So when you think about, let's go further, your pains, your fears, your doubts, your insecurity, the pieces of you that are in the darkness, and even the pieces of you that are in the light, positive and negative. Where did it begin? And we'll go even further, like to make you think even deeper, just on one subject. Let's just think about your body image. Okay, if you can't really think of everything, let's just narrow it down to body image. When we look at ourselves, if you have any negative thoughts about yourself, where did that story begin? Who truly said you're not beautiful? Who said that you're not worthy? Who said you're not enough? Was it really you that said this? Because if it was your story, would you really have created a story that had those insecurities, those fears, those worries, those doubts? Or would you have created a story that is truly of love and happiness and ease? So I just wanted to pose that question to you. And based off of my journey, and again, I told you even before spirituality came into my life, I always went back to my childhood, because guess what? That's where our story begins. From our parents, how we were raised, what we were taught. And the truth is, when you were born, what were you? You were a clean slate. You were happy. You were just a cute little baby doing your thing, growing up, learning to walk, learning to talk. Keyword, learning. You were not just born knowing everything. You were taught. So the stories you tell yourself, what are they? What are the stories that helped grow you into who you are today? Where did they originate? All of the judgments that were cast down upon you, where did it originate? So, again, you were a baby. You were happy. That means you had nothing but positive, also known as light. Where did your negativity, where did the darkness get planted and programmed into you? All right, I really want you to ask these questions to yourself. A lot of people already have these answers within them already. We can easily say where those, I would consider for myself personally, where I used to blame people, blame my childhood, blame my parents, blame environments, blame absolutely anything that created harm upon me, that created judgment or wounding. And I always questioned, who am I? Why am I the way I am? Why do I do the things I do? Now, obviously, I did this whenever something bad happened, right? We never really question when good is happening, right? We're just grateful it's happening and we're just going with the flow. That's awesome. That's amazing. Now, yes, should we question why is this happening to us? Yes, because if we want to learn, if we want that to continue to be that, yes, we should question that so we can continue to produce that. And not just feel, oh, it's luck or whichever not. We want to know really what happened. We should always question the good and the bad that happens to us, but we really don't, do we? We just ride the tide and we go with it. And it's an amazing time and we enjoy it. We really only stop and pause when something bad happened, right? Now, do we really look at just that moment when it happened? Have you ever also looked at how many times that has happened in your life, also known as cycles? Have you looked at how many times patterns have been mirrored back to you and where that story had came from? Now, a lot of those stories that happened in my life were mirrored from my childhood. So because those programs and patterns began in my childhood, that's the way I thought life was. I was not taught how to orient myself into the world in a healthy way. That environment I grew up in is exactly the way I was raised and exactly how I performed in life. The only time that differed was at work, where I was trained efficiently and clearly had the positives and negatives in a healthy manner taught to me, and I was successful. Where in a personal life, I was not successful. I was literally flowing through the wind, trying to figure things out as I went. And wherever that wind blew emotionally, I reacted. Blew things up, destroyed things I really wanted. Or I was just in a situation where that situation had no choice but to destruct on you. So the question is, why? And when you look, or when I looked at those patterns, when I was finally tired of it, because I kept saying, is it me? It must be me, because I kept seeing myself as a common denominator. But I kept blaming myself, putting that negative self-talk, the blame, the self-hatred upon me, or blaming others, as well as my childhood, blaming my parents, right? Well, eventually, when I finally was questioning these, when I was so lost and broken, and I was done, I was truly done with these cycles. I wanted to be happy, and I could not understand why these things were happening. And I was also tired of the way I felt. It didn't feel natural to me to be in this dark place. I did not appreciate it at all. So when I seeked and I asked these powerful questions, then my prayers were being answered and healing began, because I never really was ready to have those answers, because maybe parts of me wasn't ready to receive it, because I wasn't recognizing the pattern, because I was, again, just living life the way I thought was supposed to be lived, which typically was on an automatic pilot mode. But once healing began, I became conscious of those choices I was making in life. I wasn't being so scattered about within the wind. I was being more resistant to the wind and questioning that wind where it's trying to blow me as to why. And when you go back to your childhood, where it began, that's where I went, where I've always went to. But this time, instead of blaming, I was conscious and asking those questions. And the answers come back to sins of the father. And it's basically generational, which is stored within our DNA, our cellular structures, and our energy bodies. For generation to generation, whatever our ancestors learned, both the yin and the yang of those things, were passed down physically, cellularly, and energetically to each and every single generation. And then within each generation, through their own life lessons and perspectives, they add to that and pass that down to their next generation physically, cellularly, and energetically. Until finally our parents have come into our lives, and, our parents, they were taught what their grandparents were taught, and the grandparents were taught, et cetera, et cetera. But then with those lessons they were taught, then they went out to the world, received their own life lessons, positive and negative. And then guess what? That's how they raised us. So when Jesus on the cross was talking about, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, he is going back to how we truly do not know what we do, because we didn't get taught any better. And again, that's where, if you look at our education, body, mind, and soul, who's really teaching that? You have your doctors, your family practitioners, your specialists taking care of your body. You have your therapists taking care of your mind. You have your pastors and priests taking care of your spirituality. But who's taking care of you holistically? And who's taking care of you accurately, to the point where they can tell you, well, all these things come into play because of this one reason. A lot of the things diseases come from is because of a dis-ease within your spirit, within your soul. You're no longer at ease, you're in dis-ease. So then you have illnesses, habits, things of that nature that are being passed down because of dis-ease within us. And to be able to heal that, you need to put your body at ease. You need to come into union, mind, body, and soul, because there's a link that's missing. So as children, when we are taking on the sins of our father, we're taking on all those stories. They were never ours, never ours. We know we were living our life, whether playing, watching TV, whatever it is. And then our parents interjected judgment. Our parents interjected the wounds. So if they're arguing or something going around, then we're taking that all in. Every hurtful word, every loving word, every lesson that's being taught, whether positive or negative, we're taking all this stuff on from our teachers, our parents. So if they're broken, if they're wounded, we're getting their broken and wounded stories, and we're taking that on to repeat in our own lives and then to our children's lives. So the sins of the father is being passed from our parents to us. And then if you have children, look at how your children are today. See how their reflection is mirroring your childhood reflection. See how that reflects your parents, see how that reflects your grandparents. So sins of the father. So eventually, if you wake up to question these, you can break those cycles. You can break the addictions, the abuse, the infidelity. But when you're ready, you can heal your body to cure the diseases within your body. The patterns, the programs, and create a healthy life for you holistically, your mind, your body, and your soul. Not only do you get a chance to then break that, but then you now have a choice to create your own story. Now, I'm not saying your own story won't have challenges, because we're here on earth to learn. And this is our school. And if everything is okay, we just stay with the status quo, and quite frankly, can be placed on an automatic pilot. But if we have challenges to overcome, through those challenges, we have to up our A game. And whether it's forced upon us or we choose to make that because we want to do something different, that's when you learn. You learn through the challenges and the changes outside of your comfort zone. This is how you end up knowing who you are. Instead of questioning why you do certain things, because you never knew why the patterns, or let's say I never knew why those patterns existed, why I behaved the way I did, other than that's how my parents did it. Have you ever realized that? Well, this is the way I was raised. And then we blame ourselves because, or we think that other people should accept that about us on how we react and emotionally vomit upon people or share our negativity upon people, and that the people we love should just take it instead of taking accountability and say, you know what, maybe this is something I should change, right? Just giving you some food for thought there. This is something that I truly had to go back and look at. And who wants to take accountability? And also, who's really up to face those uncomfortable feelings that we've had for so long and really have the courage and strength to heal that? But I tell you right now, to know who you are, to heal that, that's where your courage and resilience, perseverance, prayer, and faith is going to come through. Where you truly learn from the lessons you've lived. One, to empathize and have compassion for your parents, because truly the life you're living right now is an embodiment of almost what your parents had lived. So, for instance, if you lashed out in anger, emotionally, physically, verbally, mentally, upon someone, just as your parents did, you can see that that didn't feel so good. And more than likely, your parents didn't like that either. But that's what they knew. That's how they knew how to express themselves. It's not like they did it purposely. That's just the only way they knew how to deal with it. So now you've experienced that and can have empathy. If you've received abuse, you can now empathize with someone else who has had abuse, and you can help teach and lift them up. The pros and the cons of these life lessons on how to, one, forgive, but then how to be of service. Pros and cons through these challenges, right? To grow, to mature, and to experience in order to understand these things. This is where I wanted to show and share where our mind, body, and soul connection is. Because the pieces of these puzzles are really answered when you connect those things. And for me, I was disconnected from my soul. I was disconnected in all areas. But the biggest piece I was disconnected from was my soul. My connection to God my connection to the Bible, where it is a teacher to help guide me along the path, to heal, to understand. And on some level, I avoided it. Now, a lot of it I did avoid because growing up, I had a trauma, fear-based fight, flight, freeze kind of stage. Wherever I heard a pastor speak or read a verse that was fear-based, it triggered that fear-based reaction within me. So that was the first reason why I avoided spirituality. And then also you have your parents talking about, oh, God's going to be mad at you if you do this, some type of form of punishment. And let's not even go into slavery, how they use the Bible to enslave others. So there was a lot of that history that I tied into the Bible. But then, well, as a teenager, I'm having fun. And unfortunately that those things I was doing was sins in the Bible, right? So I wasn't ready to stop that. Another reason to avoid the Bible. Okay. And then also another part of you would like to just think, oh, it's just a story. It's just a story because it's just a pastor just preaching, saying its thing, or it's just your parents saying this. You just don't see the relevance. It's just part of life. Again, automatic pilot mode. Unless you're truly being conscious and aware of the relevance of what this Bible is saying and how it relates to us right here and right now. Now, yes, it was almost a foreign language. I like Romeo and Juliet, how Shakespeare speaks. Well, the Bible does that too. That is the era and time. And Jesus does talk in a lot of parables. Again, those that can see, let them see. Those that can hear, let them hear. If you're not ready to see or hear, you're not ready to receive the story. We have storytellers in life. We have fables. We have hero stories. We have movies. These stories all create lessons. Our ancestors used to tell stories until entertainment came, and then the entertainment told the stories. And everything has a lesson in those stories normally, right? Our parents teach us lessons. Our elders, someone on the street might say, you may not want to do that. I just did that. It was not a good thing. You may not want to do that. Someone is always pre-warning us of something. And that's all that the Bible is doing. It just has a different way of saying it because it's written in a way we're not used to. And we can find whatever excuse that we want to avoid it. The same as we can find an excuse to avoid healing and choose to drown it out through our addictions, and whatever other source of distraction we may choose. But you can't run from it. It's part of life. What you do in the dark always comes to light. And it's not until you're ready to change, then you'll be ready to receive. And a lot of things happened in my life that kept slapping my hand, whether that is through relationships, all these red lights, red flags, all these emotions within myself that was showing me these red lights and red flags. Had a lot of illnesses in my life that was showing me red light, red flags. I mean, a lot has happened in my life. And I just continued on blaming until I finally said it's enough. So for those who haven't hit that stage in their life when they say, I've had enough, cool. Today, hopefully, if you came across this episode, maybe you're ready to receive this message to the point where you can now find those answers within yourself, to stop placing blame on yourself and anyone that has ever hurt you. Because again, we were all doing the best we can. And, you can't cast that stone without looking at yourself first. So anyone who has hurt you, have you really, or can you really say you've never hurt someone else? So really look at yourself. and take that blame away and open yourself to forgiveness. And that takes time too. So take your baby steps with your healing. But again, if they didn't know any better, they wouldn't have, they can't show up for you any differently. They did not know. They only know what their life has shown them all the way back to their childhood. And the same for you. You have two different perspectives, two different life stories. Both of you merged. Something happened. And you can't blame them because that's what they knew. They can't blame you because that's what you knew. And now it's up to you to choose to do better. Now it's time for you to take those life lessons. And how can you now create a better life for yourself and to share those lessons with others? So life experiences learned by living in the sins of our fathers allows an awareness to understand your parents, your ancestors, wounds carried now within yourself and others. So even when you're ready to heal and when you are on that journey, you can understand the different levels of which person is on which part of their level. And then you have empathy and compassion for those that aren't on that level yet. You can understand because you've been there. Kind of like high school. You got your freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. So everybody has those same stages in their life regarding their journey. Healing the wounds and the sins of the father will now allow you to create a new story. And to create that new story, again, that requires healing. It requires you to ask yourself those questions of what you've always wanted to do. What are your dreams? What are your passions? Now, I know I've asked a lot of people, especially my family and myself, well, what are your passions? What do you want to do? What have you dreamed of doing? And a lot of times they don't have those answers. So I'm going to ask you today to start thinking about that and what you can do to get out of your comfort zone in order to go discover that. And that's something to work on, but make a list, and take your small steps. Find ways you can get new experiences. If you've been on a job for 10 years, maybe it's time to get another job and see what skill set you can learn at another job. Maybe you could try a new route to work, a new restaurant, a new food, a new culture, a new dance, something to start activating the adventurer and curiosity and creativity within you. Healing the wounds and sins of our father. It's not an easy, quick, fast, in a hurry journey. It takes a long time and it takes a lot of reflection. And again, those pains is something we were truly avoiding for a very, very long time. So that's going to take a level of strength and courage and bravery from you. And I know a lot of times I had to pray heavily on a lot of those things, because sometimes there were things I was facing I didn't understand, couldn't remember. But I knew it was something I needed to deal with. I know it was something that was causing pain. So remember that there's a polarity of light and dark within you. And when it comes to that light and dark, it decides how we live, think, speak, and act. We are in the dark because, we were disconnected from the light within. We're disconnected some way, mind, body, and soul, not understanding how all of those worked. And again, I could tell you how many times the Bible mentions sins of the father, but I know there's a lot of verses within the Bible, but this one particularly stuck out to me in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 13. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible. For everything that is illuminated comes to light itself, but everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. So remember what I said, anything that was in dark always comes to light. Well, once your light is illuminated, it exposes everything, and everything starts to become light, but that still requires your work. Requires your faith, your bravery, your courage to overcome those. Because As much as I would love to say I thought God was going to wipe my slate clear and be done, he may forgive you, but you're the one who created your story. You're the one who created your wounds, even though it originated with your family. After that, it was all on you. Every single choice, action, thought, word, deed was then performed by you. And it's up to you to start healing that, to forgive the people that you blamed, to forgive yourself, and clean slate yourself by that forgiveness and by creating a new story with that of light, which is of love, of compassion, of kindness, of peace. Then it talks about in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8, for you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of the light, for you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live as children of the light, for once you were full of darkness, but now you have light from the Lord. So live as people of light. So again, our darkness created separation, it created confusion, hurt, pains, and fears. That's not the way we're to live. Again, think about how you were as a child. Before all those stories, before all the darkness, before all the wounds and the pains and sins of the Father came down upon us, we were light. We were happy. We were carefree, had no judgment, no prejudice, no hate, no violence. How our parents raised us is what created those fears, worries, and doubts. We are light. We are love. We are spiritual beings living in human existence. And God is within us. And our temple is our body. We're to heal our mind, our heart, and our body in order to gain that full connection to who we truly are in light. To heal our generations so that our generations to come can live in that love, that light, that peace. You know, for a long time, we questioned, why, God? Why did this happen to so-and-so and all these things? And we want to know why death and pain and all these things happened. Sins of our father. You take it all the way back to Adam and Eve, to Cain and Abel, whichever you want to do. Our sins of the Father has been carried down. And yes, Jesus sacrificed himself on the cross. He's taken on the curses. He's taken on the sins. That did not clean our slates from our free will of life to find ourselves and to choose God in our lives. We have free will to do as you wish. And it's when you are finally ready, when you choose to seek God within you, that's when you can do so. That's when you can heal. That's when you can invite God in your life, when you're ready. If you're not ready, none of this makes sense. And you just continue to live life just as we are right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. You have free will. But when you are ready to heal, when you are ready to clear the darkness, then you can finally find that love, that peace that you're searching for within, that safety within, because all of that is within you. To have physically fit body, to eat nutritious food that is alive, that is nurtured by earth, wind, rain, sun, versus things that are dead, that are not sustaining you physically, your temple physically. If you have a physically fit body and you're eating nutritious food, that helps your mentality, your mind. And then you can heal your inner child wounds, your subconscious patterns that are so deeply ingrained by healing your subconscious mind, reprogramming, clearing out all that darkness, taking out the root of the seeds that have been laid within you, all those weeds, plucking them out of your garden, pluck them out your mind, heal your broken heart so that you can receive the light, the love, the peace, the safety and security that you've always searched for. It begins within. Once you are clean within, your world will look a lot brighter. The people you're around, things of that nature. And then you're able to be of service, to pass those stories, those lessons upon whoever is needing you at this time. It's a journey. One I never knew I was on. All right, I think I'll end today's subject, and I'll come back to you guys on another day with another recording. We've talked a little bit about mind, and now I'm talking to you more about soul. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and you guys have a blessed night. Bye.